Hey everyone, Thor here with Bryan again.
Yeah, we're having another discussion. No interviews.
No interviews, just talking more about the things. I'm going to start with the history a bit. John Carpenter was a big fan of A Thing from Another World, which I believe came out in 1951. But The Thing from Another World is like more of a plant-based monster. It's kind of like Frankenstein-ish. And you ever see that movie or?
No, not that one.
It's a '50s movie. It's actually decent for its time, but not nearly as good as John Carpenter's. But Carpenter was a big fan, and that's why he didn't initially sign on to this. But The Thing from Another World's in Halloween. It's playing on the TV.
Okay. Yep.
So that says The Thing, but The Thing's called The Thing from Another World. But like I said, it's more plant-based. John Carpenter's is actually more closely in line with the book. This one is called Frozen Hell, but this has got extra chapters. The original one's called Who Goes There?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the book is very close to the movie. A little bit different, but it's very close. And we actually just watched this one. This is the new scan from 2018. So looks good. The movie really holds up. It looks like really good, even at 1080 upscaled to 4K.
No, I mean it was killer, and we're coming fresh off the view. We won't steal Red Letter's review. We'll just call it the new view.
The new view.
But why don't you give some history about how this movie went from being completely trashed every release to its iconic, beyond cult status at this point?
Oh yeah, I mean this thing got trashed. I think Ebert said that like it was disgusting, and it got hated. It was a flop at the box office. Everyone hated it back then, but everyone's gone back, and it's just got this like legendary status as one of the best like horror movies, one of the best remakes ever, because it's technically a remake of A Thing from Another World.
And it's very layered. And at a time where everyone was thinking like if you had gore in it, it was a slasher, and it was just to appeal to just like brutality. This actually like served a purpose with its actual like carefully placed, I guess more gory scenes.
Yeah. The effects in it are pretty amazing. There's a few stop motion effects that don't hold up, but you really don't notice them unless you know what to look for.
No, and I think you get carried away by the fact that you can't believe they're actually doing this in reality and not in CG. That it's like almost like you appreciate the artistry and the craft.
Yeah, I honestly, I think I saw an interview somewhere where they said it like in real life, like it grossed them out, like looking at these things, like.
Yeah, no, and you think that in 1982, it's like how they use those types of animatronics, the puppetry, even the type of like the goop we were just talking about. This like all the polysynthetic materials for even clothing came about like in the 70s, and all these extra materials. So they were working maybe within a decade of all this coming to market, where they can make super amazing, realistic, gore effects. And
in '82, like they just started really using animatronics like a lot. Like it was a fairly new thing, and I know like for instance, I think they had 2 people working the thing that's in the kennel.
Yep.
So a lot of hands to do it, but and also even with the new. With HDR and everything that lights everything up, like it looks pretty flawless. It's a very blue movie. They did that on purpose, and like it works with being in Antarctica. It was filmed in Alaska, but works.
Yeah, of
it's
course.
to great effect.
So why don't you go ahead and explain the main story? The 5-minute overview.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, you start off and you see a helicopter chasing a dog and it's shooting at a dog, and it's what's going on with this. It's like really really weird. The prequel went right into this. That's one thing the prequel did well, is meshing this together. But they follow a dog, and the dog runs to the U.S. camp. This is a Norwegian helicopter. They land, and none of them speak Norwegian, so they don't know why the Norwegians are shooting at them. So they kill the one Norwegian by shooting him. The other guy blows himself up with a grenade because the helicopter is filled with kerosene to burn the dog, which is actually an alien, but they don't know it. So they take the dog in and decide, oh man, they must have went crazy or something. So they're like, some of us will go check out the camp, the others will hang back, and the dogs they show scenes of the dog just kind of like studying everyone.
Be very careful and weird, and inquisitive and not like a dog that's just roaming around naturally.
Yeah, it's like it's like watching people and like learning what they're doing. So that's why I like, I think it kind of develops a plan and kind of like studies and decides who's going to attack and when. I think it's a very intelligent creature, whatever it is.
And so they go to the Norwegian base to figure out why these people came here, and they find it pretty much destroyed.
It's destroyed. They see a burned mass out, burned stuff outside. They're not sure what it is. Then they kind of go through in a, like you said, it's completely destroyed, and there's a guy sitting in a chair, and he's like got blood coming from him, and his face is like deformed. And there's like an axe through the wall, and they go through and they find some documents and grab them and find some videos, and then they find this like ice box thing because they pulled the thing out and it was frozen solid, and they see this box and they're like, what the hell is this? And they figure out that they must have dug something up, and they take some of this whatever they found burned outside back with them for the doctors.
And they also see an alien saucer in the cabin area where they were digging out through the ice.
Yeah, they see where they dug, and they see this huge chasm with this giant ship.
Yeah. And so they essentially understand that they're dealing with some sort of alien force at that point. They go back to the camp. They kind of explain it to everyone. There's a doctor there that tries to develop some sort of blood test, but then
well, that's a little later. What they do first is the body that was burned. They start cutting it open and saying, "Oh, this has got like organs in it, like, and it's dog. Like, what is this?" And they're not really sure. And then the dog bumps into someone, and they're like, "Why is that dog still out?" And while they're looking at the burned mass, they take the dog back, and then the dog goes in the kennel, which is a pretty awesome scene.
Where that was mind blowing when I saw it even 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe the effects.
Yeah, the dog walks in very like the dog seems like very off and kind of lays down, and then like this movie is like a very much a slow burn. Like you really don't know, especially the first time watching, you don't know what's happening. And then all of a sudden the other dogs just start growling at this dog and going crazy, and then the dog's face opens up, and I don't know if you noticed, but like it opened up like a flower, but like each petal was like a dog tongue.
And there was teeth.
There's teeth, and then the skull just falls out. It's like it's disgusting, but it's amazing looking. It looks so well. Like you could never do that with CG.
Yeah. And then so, they come into the dog kennel, they see that there's this totally foreign creature. They essentially
shoot at it, and they think they kill it. They burn it, and some people have the misconception that it escapes here, but it actually just pulls itself up into the rafters, because you can see Childs looks up and burns it while it's in the air, and then they burn it, and they want to still like look at it. Or maybe it's a Norwegian one, I forget, but they put it in like a storage closet, and soon after they're like they put the dogs, they give medication to the dogs to calm them down, and then I believe after that soon Beddings gets attacked, right?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. Is they're in the storeroom, they're putting the remains there, and then it simulates like Beddings, and then
the Windows guy.
He drops the keys, which they argue about later, which is part of this.
But they're all at this point essentially understanding that there is this alien force. They're freaking out, and they don't know which one of them could be infected. But the main doctor there is theorizing that people are going to get infected.
Well, this is going on, and especially at the dog thing, they show clips. Like he's built this like program that shows that this thing assimilates and can copy anyone, act just like them. It can infect blood and essentially take over someone's body that way too. So this thing's like super, super dangerous, and that doctor ends up going crazy, played by Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, great.
He goes by Blair in this, and he starts, attacking after that all the equipment, and he's like, I know what they're trying to do, and he knows that some people are, and and before this, let me back up a bit. They show a silhouette of someone, and they actually had they had a crew person sit there, so you couldn't tell who the silhouette was, and the dog goes into the room alone with someone, so it's insinuated that he got someone then. So, there's the dog thing that they just took down, but one of the crew members are definitely an alien.
Yeah, and then essentially the movie progresses somewhat in the same way that the 2011 one, where it's paranoia, the intercharacter personal relationships of them trying to figure out who's the one infected.
People
they go
don't
through
trust
blood
each other.
tests. They make sure that they're always around each other.
And Kurt Russell, who is great in this as MacReady, he even does a few recordings. He just talks like, we're all exhausted. No one trusts each other, and And
then it just... essentially, as people start dying and they figure out, the blood tests to identify how you can, determine who's the thing, it ends up coming in towards the climactic scene where it ends up that the doctor, the one that went insane, ended up somehow getting infected at some point, and he's building that craft to try and escape off the planet.
Yeah, and escape to the mainland, or maybe go home, but probably go to the mainland. And the idea is during the simulation, he found out that I think it'd take 300 hours if it got to the mainland to infect the whole world.
27,000 hours, I think it's
Was it something like that? Yeah.
To total world domination.
And it's just everyone's infected. So that's pretty crazy and a pretty scary idea. But it definitely fits in with the themes of this movie, and it really builds up to the scene where they do the blood test. Because they kind of figure out that the thing will do anything to survive. Parts of it'll come off and try to live on its own because it's a cellular organism. And the main Kurt Russell's MacReady, he's pretty much becomes the main character. He figures out this test and ties them all together, and it's one of the greatest scenes in movies. It's just even though you know what's going to happen, it's just built up so well. He does two or three tests, and nothing happens. So you're like, oh, this isn't going to work. Yeah. Third one, it jumps out of the thing. It's the only jump scare really. Well, maybe there's one other, but it's one of the jump scares of the movie, and it just takes you totally by surprise. And then
we're at a petri dish of blood. All of a sudden, a tentacle blows up and appears out of it.
Yeah,
it's pretty insane.
Yeah, and then Polymer starts transforming, and 4 or 5 people are tied right next to him, and they're like, oh, blast him, and his flamethrower doesn't work, so then Windows gets killed by the thing, and it just goes really downhill really quickly, and it's pretty. Then they clear after they kill those things, they clear everyone else, and they're like, we got to go get Blair, and Blair's not there, and they find out Blair's been building the ship, and then
they make the decision that they've got to blow everything up, and they're all probably going to die there, but they got to stop.
They got to do it no matter what, and they can't let this thing, escape. And the ending of this movie is fantastic, but the final battle of the thing is lackluster because they did this whole stop motion scene, but they decided it looked too bad, so they kind of just throw a stick of dynamite at the thing dog creature,
and then the entire facility blows up because they wasted with dynamite, and then it comes down to the final iconic scene, which I want you to get into, where it's the only 2 survivors are MacReady and Childs, which is Keith David. Right?
Keith David, yeah.
Where they got separated at some point when they were blowing everything up, and none of them can trust each other as to whether or not they're the thing.
And it's such an amazing ending and scene. It's very dark and it's very nihilistic, but I love it. Keith David thought he saw Blair, so he ran off. So obviously MacReady doesn't trust Childs doesn't trust him. And there's a million theories out there to what's happening because earlier during the test, there's an eye light, and then the character Palmer doesn't have a light in his eye, but they only did that in the one scene, so I really don't buy into that theory. And some people say you can't see Child's breath, but
you can see
you totally see his breath. And also, if you take 2011 in consideration, he does have an earring, so I'd say he's human. And also, the 2002 video game says that Childs was human, but he freezes to death. But that's not technically canon. But there's actually a comic book too that was a sequel.
And then hold on, the last one I think you brought up previously about the possible gasoline in the
because he had like Molotov cocktails. They're saying that he put gasoline in the bottle and gave it to Childs, and he drank it, and that's why he laughs. But
I find that one implausible because it's like they know they're gonna die. I don't think he'd be like, okay, well, on the one thing that's gonna bring me comfort, my liquor bottle that I've been drinking the entire time here, I'm gonna go secretly put gasoline in it and wait till someone who might survive come and have them drink it to see if I can figure it out.
Especially watching the movie, McReady's a fan of the J&B.
Yeah, he's just drinking it the entire time. So I think that'd be the most far-fetched one of them all.
Yeah, and there's actually a theory where McReady's he used someone else's blood and he's like the thing through the whole movie. Which I think is a little wild. Yeah. He's pretty content with,
and he's trying to hunt down the thing also. So it's like, all the other things that we had noticed is trying to stay off the radar until it got exposed, and so it wouldn't make sense that he'd be trying to blow everything up.
And he wants to blow everything up, and some people say because he's trying to let Childs die, and also another thing too is they would have, if they wanted Childs to be the thing, he probably would have just tortured him or had Childs kill him and just have it be a bleak ending. But I kind of like, you don't know, so you can make your own ending. But in my opinion, I think they're both human, just accepted their fate.
Yeah, I wish they, it's kind of like one of those movies that gives you the ending, maybe the ending that you don't want, because it's like, and typically the human nature is like you want the hero story, you want people to come out alive in the end.
But something you don't see.
And it probably gives you the ending that's deserved given the character of the story.
And I also think as horror goes, it's a way better horror ending.
Yeah. That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, a lot of horror movies like have an ending or not all of them do, but many of them,
Yeah, kind of like the Outer Limits take, where it's like 70% of the shows, it's always like the bad guys winning, on the episodic, story arcs.
Yeah.
And you're always like, oh, damn. But
then they come out on top.
But it was good. I mean, I think it was a great movie. Again, I think it stands the test of time. I saw it probably for the first time 10 years ago, watched it several times periodically, then again right now, and every time I look at the effects, I'm just like, dude, this is absolutely amazing that they did this at the time.
Yeah, I grew up watching this with my dad, and I've seen this movie like 50 times. My opinion, it's John Carpenter's best work. I think it's better than Halloween. I know not everyone's going to think that, but I really love the sci-fi horror, and I love the paranoia. I love the atmosphere. I really like atmospheric horror, and I don't think many people beat Carpenter when it comes to that.
Yeah, and given the time in which this came out with the slasher films and everything, the film actually has layers that you can go back and try and re-examine what's happening in all these scenes and the choices they make with how they do cuts and how they change frames and put people in the same type of clothes outside. So you're always off balance as to like who is doing what, when, and where, so that you never know who could be the thing or when the thing could have struck. And I think that was totally missed at the time.
Yeah,
and it wasn't until the internet, where you have a million people talking about it and explaining about it, where they really realize that this is like an actual piece of art in a time where a lot of horror movies were just slasher cash grabs of trying to put tits on a screen.
Yeah, definitely exploitative movies. Yeah, no, and to add to your point, like, it's just amazing how much like thought they went in this movie. Like, they definitely wanted it to be like ambiguous, and they always say, even Carpenter, the producers, say they don't know who's infected or who got infected when, because like at the blood test, only two people, Norris and Palmer, are the two infected people at the blood test. But they showed a scene where, like I said, where the dog went in. You can't tell who it is because it's a crew member, but as you said, too, outside people are dressed similarly, so like you don't know who's who, and it just builds into the paranoia and the idea that no one knows who's human or who's not, and it keeps going. It's great for the theme, and just like to add to the paranoia, they argue over the keys. Windows dropped the keys, but he's like, I'm not going to say I'm the one that dropped it because then I'll get accused, and he runs away in that scene. Like, just like the attention to detail in this is just pretty impressive. Yeah,
no, I agree. I mean, so going back to what we did for 2011, now since this is original, if you were to put it as a piece of art 1 to 10, and then we'll do the subgenre of like actual horror. 1 to 10 as a general movie.
Dude, this is like one of my favorite movies. So this is like, I don't like to just give 10s, but this is it's like my favorite movie. It's like a 10 for me.
I would put this as a solid 9 for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe given the time, if I could back up and be negative 2 years old and when it came out and take a look at, maybe I would think it'd be probably a 10 for the time. Maybe I would have hated it like everybody else. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
it might be just like a 10.
For now, I think, on its own merits, to me, it's definitely a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, like I said, I usually say,
But for horror genre, for me, it's a 10.
Yeah, it's
because let's be real, a lot of horror is trash.
It's garbage. It's garbage. I mean, I love it.
Especially post 2008 horror movie. You know what I mean? Where it was like there's no pretension.
There's a couple that came out though. Like you're talking Oculus is decent, and
that's good. And that's a movie that did a hell of a lot on a small budget. I think that movie had less than a $5 million budget. It was phenomenal.
I think the thing was the biggest budget John Carpenter got, but I mean, he made the original Halloween on nothing.
Yeah, no, I definitely think like the story of 2005 on with horror right now has been, jump scares, $5 million budgets, try and get $30 million in the box office, similar to what we talked about in our previous video, the other thing, and now, it's mostly trash. I mean, you go to Rotten Tomatoes, you see they're all like at 10s or 15s or 20s. It's few and far between where they're actually trying to make a real movie and it be a horror movie.
It's kind of amazing to think about that. This came in the 80s and it's trash for it being like gory and just gross, and like look at the whole 2000s, like the whole Saw.
Yeah.
That's all that was.
And you know what? I thought Saw was fantastic. All the other Saws, they're rough. They're pretty rough.
Yeah,
there was one or two in between that were like, okay.
You watch it for just the traps
But Saw the original, phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
But maybe that somehow will be more appreciated also when it gets older. But I think it was pretty appreciated at the time.
It definitely
was a pretty solid movie. But if I'm gonna watch these two movies and I have to pick one that I'm gonna watch 20 times over, I mean, Saw was the ending.
Yeah.
That brought it all together. This is the entire movie to examine.
Exactly. Like I said, it is like a slow burn, but once it picks up, it just doesn't stop.
Yeah. It's top notch. But do you have anything else to add, or what do you think?
No, I think we pretty much ran through like everything. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. And what about you?
No, I think we're all set on this one. I would definitely check it out. I think we looked like it's on Amazon. You can rent it right now. I don't think it's on like the streaming platform.
Yeah, or like I said, the Blu-ray, especially this new release, has got a lot of cool stuff. So if you can get a hold of that, but I think this is a limited release, so it's probably like $1 million, probably $100 online now.
Yeah, it's insane. But
you know how those limited releases go.
Collector's items.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Well, thanks again, Brian, and Thor and Brian out.
See you later.